In this video, you will discover why the calmest people are often the strongest, how smart detachment protects your mind from manipulation, why reacting emotionally gives power to others, and how you can stay emotionally balanced in a world full of provocation, noise, pressure, and psychological games. You will learn how to control your reactions, protect your energy, think clearly under stress, and become mentally untouchable in situations that usually destroy people emotionally. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with someone who needs inner peace, and write a comment telling us, have you ever lost your calm because of someone else? Now, let's begin. The modern world survives on emotional reactions. Every platform, every argument, every conflict, and even many relationships are built around one thing: provoking you emotionally. People have learned that if they control your emotions, they control your attention. And if they control your attention long enough, they slowly control your decisions, your peace, your focus, and eventually, your identity. This is why smart detachment has become one of the first Kalachion Mogillion Gate skills in modern life. Smart detachment does not mean becoming cold-hearted. It does not mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop allowing chaos to enter your mind without permission. It means understanding that not every insult deserves a response, not every opinion deserves your attention, and not every conflict deserves your emotional energy. Weak minds react instantly. Strong minds observe first. The problem is that most people have been trained to react emotionally to everything. Someone ignores their message, and they panic. Someone criticizes them, and they lose sleep. Someone succeeds, and they feel insecure. Someone disagrees with them online, and suddenly their entire mood changes. Their emotional state is controlled externally. They become prisoners of the environment around them. But smart detachment changes the game completely. The moment you stop reacting automatically, you regain psychological power. Suddenly, you can see situations more clearly. You stop making impulsive decisions. You stop giving emotional access to people who do not deserve it. And most importantly, you stop carrying emotional burdens that were never yours to carry. Many people think emotional reactions prove strength. In reality, uncontrolled emotional reactions often reveal internal weakness. The person who explodes in anger over small things usually lacks inner stability. The person who constantly seeks validation usually fears rejection deeply. The person who cannot handle criticism often builds their identity around other people's opinions. True strength appears in emotional control. Imagine two people facing the same insult. The first reacts immediately with anger, shouting, defending, attacking. The second remains calm, studies the situation, and chooses whether the insult even deserves attention. Which person truly has control? Most people confuse noise with power, but real power it's silent. Real power is emotional discipline. Smart detachment also protects you from manipulation. Manipulative people survive by controlling emotional reactions. They provoke guilt, fear, jealousy, insecurity, and anger because emotional people are easier to influence. Once emotions become intense, logic disappears. That is why emotionally reactive people often regret their words, decisions, and actions later. They temporarily lose access to rational thinking. But when you practice smart detachment, manipulation becomes weaker. You begin noticing patterns instead of drowning in emotions. You recognize when someone is trying to provoke you intentionally. You understand that many arguments are traps designed to steal your peace and attention. Then, once you realize this, you stop participating emotionally in every battle presented to you. One of the hardest truths to accept is that many people actually enjoy emotional chaos. They feel uncomfortable in silence and stability because they are addicted to stimulation. Drama makes them feel alive. Conflict gives them temporary excitement. Constant emotional highs and lows become their normal state. This is why calm people often appear mysterious. Their nervous system is no longer addicted to chaos. Smart detachment allows you to separate your identity from temporary emotions. You stop saying, I am angry, and begin saying, I feel anger right now. That small difference changes everything. Emotions become experiences passing through you instead of definitions controlling you. You stop becoming the emotion itself. This also changes your relationships dramatically. You stop chasing people who constantly drain your energy. You stop over-explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to win every argument. And strangely, the less emotionally desperate you become, the more respect people start giving you. Because calmness creates psychological weight. People trust emotionally stable individuals more. They feel safer around them. They listen more carefully to people who speak calmly under pressure. In stressful situations, everyone watches the person who remains emotionally grounded. Calmness signals internal authority, but smart detachment requires practice because the world constantly tries to pull you into emotional reactions. News headlines are designed to trigger outrage. Social media algorithms reward anger and controversy. Toxic people provoke emotional responses because they feed on attention. Even daily stress slowly pressures your nervous system. If you do not consciously protect your mental state, the world will consume it piece by piece. This is why solitude becomes important sometimes. Silence allows you to hear your own thoughts again. Constant noise disconnects people from themselves. Many individuals are not exhausted because life is difficult. They are exhausted because their minds never rest. They absorb emotions from everyone around them without filtering anything. Smart detachment teaches emotional boundaries. Not every problem is your responsibility. Not every emotional burden belongs on your shoulders. Some people carry permanent negativity and try to spread it everywhere they go. If you absorb all of it, you slowly lose yourself. You must learn the difference between empathy and emotional self-destruction. Caring about people should not require sacrificing your inner peace completely. Helping others should not mean abandoning yourself emotionally. Strong people know how to support others without drowning beside them. And perhaps the most important part of smart detachment is learning not to personalize everything. Most people's behavior reflects their own internal struggles, not your worth. Angry people spread anger. Insecure people criticize others. Manipulative people project confusion. Emotionally wounded people often wound others. Once you understand this deeply, you stop taking every negative interaction personally. You begin seeing human behavior differently. Instead of reacting emotionally, you observe psychologically. You become harder to provoke because you understand the deeper mechanisms behind human reactions. This awareness creates emotional freedom, and emotional freedom is rare. Most people are controlled by external circumstances. Their mood depends on attention, validation, success, relationships, and approval. But the person who develops internal stability becomes dangerous in the best possible way. They cannot be emotionally controlled easily. They think before reacting. They protect their energy carefully. They remain calm while others panic. And that calmness changes every part of life. Your decisions improve. Your relationships improve. Your confidence becomes quieter but stronger. You stop needing to prove yourself constantly because inner peace replaces external validation. You realize that protecting your mental state is more valuable than winning temporary emotional battles. The strongest person in the room is often not the loudest. It is usually the one who stays emotionally centered while chaos spreads everywhere around them. And in a provoking world, that ability becomes a form of psychological armor. Before the next part of this video, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with someone who constantly struggles with emotional pressure, and write in the comments what situation tests your calmness the most. Because the next step is not simply learning how to stay calm once. The real challenge is learning how to remain emotionally untouchable, even when the world keeps trying to pull you back into chaos. The moment you become emotionally untouchable, people begin reacting differently to you. Some will respect you more. Others will become uncomfortable because your calmness removes the control they once had over you. Emotional manipulators depend on predictable reactions. They know exactly how to trigger insecure people, angry people, lonely people, and emotionally dependent people. But when someone stops reacting the way they expect, the manipulation loses power completely. This is why smart detachment often confuses toxic individuals. They expect emotional chaos, but instead, they meet silence. They expect desperation, but instead, they meet patience. They expect emotional weakness, but instead, they meet self-control. And nothing frustrates manipulative people more than losing emotional access to someone they thought they could control. But staying calm is not always easy. Some situations hit deeply because they touch old emotional wounds. Rejection awakens insecurity. Betrayal awakens fear. Criticism awakens self-doubt. And this is where most people fail. They think emotional mastery means never feeling pain. That is impossible. Smart detachment is not emotional numbness. It is emotional intelligence. The emotionally intelligent person still feels disappointment, anger, sadness, and frustration. The difference is that they do not become controlled by those emotions. They allow emotions to pass through them without allowing emotions to make decisions for them. This single ability separates mentally strong people from emotionally impulsive people. Imagine how many lives are damaged by temporary emotions, relationships destroyed in moments of anger, careers ruined because of impulsive reactions, friendships lost because pride controlled communication, opportunities missed because fear became stronger than courage. Most suffering is not caused by events themselves, it is caused by uncontrolled reactions to events. Smart detachment gives you space between stimulus and response. That small pause changes everything. In that pause, wisdom appears. Instead of reacting automatically, you begin choosing consciously. And conscious reactions create powerful lives. Most people never develop this pause because they live in constant emotional overstimulation. Notifications, arguments, pressure, comparison, fear, and endless distractions keep their nervous system overloaded. They become reactive by default. Their minds operate in survival mode instead of awareness mode, and survival mode destroys clarity. That is why calm people often seem different. They are not necessarily more intelligent than everyone else. They simply learned how to protect their attention. And attention is one of the most valuable resources in existence. Wherever your attention goes, your emotional energy follows. If toxic people dominate your attention, your peace disappears. If fear dominates your attention, confidence weakens. If comparison dominates your attention, gratitude dies slowly. Smart detachment means becoming selective about what deserves access to your mind. You must ask yourself an important question. What constantly steals your peace? For some people, it is social media. For others, it is toxic relationships. For others, it is obsession with approval. Many people claim they want peace while surrounding themselves with chaos every single day. Then they wonder why their mind feels exhausted. Peace is not accidental. Calmness is trained. Emotional stability is built through repeated discipline. Every time you choose silence instead of unnecessary conflict, you strengthen your mind. Every time you refuse to react impulsively, you build emotional authority. Every time you let go of something that drains your spirit, you reclaim psychological freedom. And eventually, something powerful begins happening. External situations lose their ability to shake you easily. Criticism hurts less. Rejection loses its destructive power. Delays stop creating panic. Provocation becomes easier to ignore. You begin understanding that emotional reactions are often temporary storms, but your identity does not need to collapse every time a storm appears. Many people spend their entire lives emotionally attached to outcomes they cannot fully control. They attach their happiness to other people's behavior, other people's opinions, and other people's choices. This creates permanent anxiety because external reality constantly changes. Smart detachment teaches you to focus on what remains under your control: your mindset, your behavior, your discipline, your reactions, and your inner state. This mindset also changes failure completely. Emotionally reactive people see failure as personal humiliation. Emotionally detached people see failure as information. They learn, adjust, and continue moving. Their identity survives mistakes because their self-worth is not built entirely on temporary success. This is why emotionally detached individuals recover faster from difficulties. They do not spend months emotionally collapsing over every setback. They process pain, adapt intelligently, and keep moving forward. Their resilience becomes stronger because they stop identifying completely with temporary emotions. There is also another hidden power in smart detachment: silence. Silence terrifies many people because silence forces self-confrontation. Noise distracts, silence reveals. When you sit alone without distraction, unresolved emotions begin surfacing. Many people avoid silence because they fear meeting themselves honestly. But emotionally strong individuals use silence differently. Silence becomes mental recovery. Silence becomes clarity. Silence becomes observation. In silence, you begin noticing how many emotional battles were never necessary in the first place. You realize that many arguments were ego battles, not truth battles. Many emotional attachments were built from fear, not love. Many emotional reactions came from insecurity, not wisdom. And once you see these patterns clearly, you stop participating in them automatically. This creates a different type of confidence, not loud confidence, not arrogant confidence, quiet confidence, the kind that does not beg for attention, the kind that does not need to dominate conversations, the kind that remains composed even under pressure, because true emotional mastery is invisible most of the time. It appears in the ability to stay calm during disrespect. It appears in the ability to walk away from manipulation. It appears in the ability to remain patient while others lose control. It appears in the ability to think clearly when emotions become intense. And perhaps the greatest advantage of smart detachment is freedom from emotional slavery. Most people are emotionally chained to external validation. They constantly need reassurance, attention, approval, or recognition to feel stable. But once you detach intelligently, you stop depending completely on others to regulate your emotional state. You become emotionally self-sufficient. That does not mean isolation. It means inner stability. You can still love people deeply without losing yourself inside them. You can still care about others without becoming emotionally consumed by their behavior. You can still experience emotions fully without becoming imprisoned by them. And this balance is rare in today's world because modern culture rewards emotional extremes. Outrage spreads faster than wisdom. Drama receives more attention than calmness. Impulsive reactions generate more noise than thoughtful responses. But noise is not strength. Noise is often confusion disguised as power. The person who truly controls themselves does not need to react to everything. They understand that attention is expensive, energy is limited, peace is valuable. And emotional discipline protects all three. As you continue watching this video, remember something important. The goal is not becoming emotionless. The goal is becoming emotionally sovereign. To feel without drowning, to care without collapsing, to stay calm without becoming weak. And in a world addicted to emotional chaos, that ability becomes one of the rarest forms of power. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with someone trying to protect their peace in a chaotic world, and write in the comments, do you think emotional control is becoming harder in modern society? Because the deeper truth about smart detachment is still ahead, and most people never realize it until life forces them to learn it the hard way. One of the deepest truths about smart detachment is that life becomes clearer when emotions stop controlling your perception. Many people are not seeing reality as it truly is. They are seeing reality through emotional filters created by fear, insecurity, attachment, pride, jealousy, loneliness, and unresolved pain. Their emotions distort their judgment constantly. A small criticism feels like hatred. A delay feels like rejection. A disagreement feels like betrayal. Everything becomes emotionally exaggerated, and when emotions dominate perception, people make destructive decisions. They stay in toxic relationships because they fear loneliness more than suffering. They chase approval because they secretly fear feeling invisible. They argue endlessly because their ego cannot tolerate being misunderstood. They destroy their own peace trying to control situations that were never fully controllable in the first place. Smart detachment removes emotional fog. It allows you to see people more honestly. You stop idealizing individuals simply because you are emotionally attached to them. You stop ignoring red flags because you are desperate for connection. You stop sacrificing your dignity just to keep temporary attention. Many people confuse attachment with love, but attachment often comes from fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of emptiness, fear of being alone. Real emotional maturity begins when you can care deeply about someone without making them the center of your emotional stability. The moment your entire emotional state depends on another person, suffering becomes inevitable. Because people change, situations change, life changes. And if your emotional foundation depends entirely on unstable external things, your inner peace becomes fragile. This is why emotionally detached individuals often appear calmer during painful situations. It is not because they feel nothing, it is because they understand impermanence. They understand that emotions rise and fall, situations evolve, pain passes, and reacting impulsively usually creates more suffering than the original problem itself. There is incredible power in emotional patience. Most people panic during temporary discomfort. They want immediate emotional relief, so they chase distractions, revenge, validation, arguments, attention, or impulsive decisions simply to escape uncomfortable feelings. But emotionally disciplined people know that not every emotion requires immediate action. Sometimes the wisest response is waiting. Sometimes clarity only appears after emotions settle. Sometimes silence solves problems that emotional reactions would only intensify. But modern culture teaches the opposite. It encourages instant reactions, instant opinions, instant outrage, instant emotional exposure. People post their anger publicly before understanding their own emotions privately. They react before thinking, speak before reflecting, attack before understanding, and later, many regret the damage caused by temporary emotional states. Smart detachment teaches emotional timing. You begin asking yourself important questions before reacting. Is this situation truly important? Will this matter in a week? Is my reaction helping or harming me? Am I responding from wisdom or wounded emotion? These questions interrupt impulsive behavior and create psychological awareness. This awareness changes conflict dramatically. You stop needing to win every argument because you realize many conflicts are battles of ego, not truth. Some people do not want understanding. They want emotional victory. They want reactions. They want chaos. And once you recognize that, you stop feeding emotional games with your attention. One of the most dangerous habits in life is emotional overinvestment in things outside your control. Some people destroy their mental health obsessing over outcomes they cannot guarantee. They replay conversations endlessly. They overanalyze every message, every expression, every possibility. Their mind becomes trapped in constant emotional tension. But smart detachment teaches acceptance. Acceptance does not mean weakness, it means recognizing reality clearly instead of emotionally resisting everything you cannot fully control. You cannot control how everyone feels about you. You cannot control every outcome. You cannot control whether people stay, leave, support you, misunderstand you, or betray you, but you can control how deeply those situations destroy your inner stability. And this realization creates freedom. When you stop trying to emotionally control everything, your nervous system relaxes, your thoughts become clearer, your reactions become slower and wiser. Life stops feeling like constant emotional warfare. Many people are addicted to emotional intensity because calmness initially feels unfamiliar. Chaos became normal for them. Peace feels boring. Stability feels strange. Dot. They unconsciously create drama because silence forces them to confront unresolved emptiness inside themselves. But emotional maturity requires confronting that emptiness honestly. You must learn how to sit with yourself without constant distraction, without endless scrolling, without emotional noise, without needing external stimulation every second. Because the person who cannot be alone peacefully will eventually become emotionally dependent on anything that temporarily distracts them. And emotional dependency weakens judgment. This is why emotionally detached people are often more independent thinkers. They are less influenced by trends, emotional manipulation, and group pressure because their identity is not constantly seeking approval. They can disagree without collapsing emotionally. They can walk away from unhealthy environments without feeling psychologically destroyed. They understand something powerful. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it is necessary. Some people will call you distant when you stop tolerating disrespect. Some will call you cold when you stop over explaining yourself. Some will become angry when they lose emotional control over you. But growth often changes relationship dynamics. When you become emotionally stronger, unhealthy connections sometimes weaken automatically. Not everyone benefits from your emotional evolution, especially people who depended on your emotional weakness. This is why smart detachment also requires courage. The courage to disappoint people sometimes, the courage to stop chasing validation, the courage to say no without guilt, the courage to walk away from environments destroying your peace, and perhaps the hardest courage of all, the courage to stop abandoning yourself emotionally just to keep others comfortable. Because many people betray themselves daily for acceptance. They silence their real thoughts, ignore their emotional exhaustion, tolerate disrespect, suppress boundaries, pretend to be emotionally fine while internally collapsing, all because they fear rejection more than self-destruction. Smart detachment ends that cycle. You begin respecting your own emotional energy. You become more careful about who enters your mental space. You stop arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop explaining your worth to those determined not to see it. And slowly, your life becomes quieter. But that quietness is not emptiness. It is stability. It is emotional clarity. It is inner control. And in a world overflowing with emotional chaos, inner control becomes a superpower. The people who master themselves emotionally often succeed differently in life. Their minds stay clearer during pressure. Their decisions become less impulsive. Their relationships become healthier. Their confidence becomes more authentic because it no longer depends entirely on external approval. They waste less energy on emotional drama and focus more energy on building meaningful lives. And perhaps this is the final irony. The less emotionally desperate you become, the more emotionally powerful you appear. Because desperation repels people, while calm confidence attracts respect naturally. People feel emotional stability instinctively. They trust those who remain composed under pressure. They admire those who can stay calm during conflict. They notice individuals who protect their peace without becoming cruel. Emotional mastery creates presence without forcing attention. And the truth is, most people spend years trying to control the external world while completely failing to control their internal world. But external control is temporary. Internal control changes everything. So before moving forward, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with someone trying to reclaim their peace, and write in the comments, what steals your emotional energy the fastest? Because understanding the source of emotional chaos is the first step toward becoming untouchable by it. At the end of everything, smart detachment is not about escaping the world. It is about surviving the world without losing yourself inside it. Because the truth is, life will continue testing your emotions. People will misunderstand you. Some will provoke you intentionally. Some will project their pain onto you. Some situations will feel unfair. Some moments will shake your patience. And no matter how strong you become mentally, challenges will still appear. But the difference now is that you no longer react the same way. You begin protecting your peace like something valuable because you finally understand how expensive emotional chaos truly is. You realize that every unnecessary argument steals mental energy. Every emotional overreaction weakens clarity. Every toxic attachment slowly drains your spirit. And every moment spent trying to control things outside yourself pushes you further away from inner stability. So instead of fighting every battle, you choose your battles wisely. Dot. Instead of reacting instantly, you observe first. Instead of absorbing every emotion around you, you filter what enters your mind. And slowly, your entire presence changes. You become calmer in stressful situations, more patient during uncertainty, more disciplined during emotional pressure. You stop seeking validation everywhere because your confidence begins growing internally instead of externally. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth constantly because emotionally secure people understand something others often forget. Silence is sometimes stronger than explanation. There is a certain peace that comes when you stop chasing emotional control over everything. You stop needing every person to understand you. You stop needing every outcome to happen exactly as planned. You stop depending on constant reassurance to feel stable. And when that emotional dependence disappears, fear begins losing power over your life. Because fear survives through attachment to approval. Attachment to outcomes, attachment to image, attachment to people, attachment to expectations. But smart detachment cuts those emotional chains one by one until your mind becomes lighter, clearer, and stronger. You begin realizing that emotional maturity is not becoming cold, it is becoming balanced. It is learning how to care deeply without self-destruction, how to love without losing yourself, how to stay calm without becoming passive, how to walk away without hatred, how to remain kind without allowing disrespect. And perhaps that is the rarest form of strength in modern society, not aggression, not domination, not emotional numbness, but controlled calmness. The ability to stay centered while the world around you becomes emotionally unstable. The ability to think clearly while others panic. The ability to protect your inner peace without needing to isolate yourself completely. And once you develop this ability, life feels different. Not easier necessarily, but clearer. Do you stop wasting years emotionally trapped in situations that destroy your spirit? You stop giving unlimited emotional access to people who never valued your peace. You stop carrying emotional burdens that were never meant for you. And for the first time, you begin living with intention instead of emotional survival. This is why emotionally disciplined people often move differently. They speak less but observe more. They react less but understand more. They no longer chase every distraction because they know attention shapes reality. And they know that where attention goes, emotional energy follows. So they protect that energy carefully. Because your peace is valuable, your focus is valuable, your emotional stability is valuable. And in a chaotic world designed to provoke reactions constantly, protecting those things becomes an act of quiet power. Maybe that is why the strongest people are often the calmest people, not because life never hurts them, but because they learn that emotional control matters more than emotional intensity. They learn that reacting to everything weakens the mind. They learn that inner peace is not found accidentally. It is built intentionally. And most importantly, they learn that the person who masters their own mind becomes harder for the world to break. So as this video comes to an end, remember this: not everything deserves your emotional energy. Not every opinion deserves your reaction. Not every conflict deserves your attention. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is remain calm, protect your peace, and continue moving forward without allowing chaos to enter your soul. If this video helped you see emotional strength differently, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with someone who needs more peace and control in their life. And write in the comments, what is one thing you will stop giving your emotional energy to after today? Your answer might become the beginning of a completely different mindset.